wanted to read you a chapter book while we do virtual learning. So this is one of my favorite Junie B. Jones stories. This is called Junie B. Jones, First Grader, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. P.S. So does May. So I really like this one. We already know that Junie B and May don't get along. They're sort of opposite characters. And so the title already tells me that there's going to be something that happens that Junie B is upset with May. And it looks like she's dressed like an elf on the cover. All right, let's get started. This is chapter 1. It is called Peace and Goodwill. Tuesday. Dear first grade journal, yay, yay, hooray. Today is the last week before winter break. Winter break is the school word for, I gotta get out of this place. I tell you, because Blabbermouth May is driving me crazy. And there's a picture of Junie B writing in her journal. She is tattletaling on me every day almost. That's how come yesterday I chased her down on the playground and I threw grass on her head. Not a good choice, huh, boys and girls? It was very fun, except I hope Santa did not see me do that. That guy watches me like a hawk this time of year. From Junie B, first grader. P.S. Hey, wait, I almost forgot. Today, all the first grades are going to sing holiday songs together. That will be a hoot, I tell you, because just then I quick stopped writing because I could not believe my eyeballs. That Snoopy head May was stretching her neck across the aisle, and she was reading my journal page. I slammed my book shut speedy fast. This is none of your beeswax, sister, I said. But May was already jumping out of her chair. Mr. Scary! Mr. Scary! She hollered loud. Junie Jones wrote a bad name about me in her journal. She wrote that I'm a blabbermouth. And bladdermouth and bladder is not even a nice word. So sometimes Junie B gets her words mixed up and she meant to say blabbermouth. But instead of making her B's look like B's, she made them look like D's. So it said bladder mouth. And that's kind of funny because your bladder is what you go to the bathroom with. So that's silly. All right. I rolled my eyes at the dumb comment. It is not bladdermouth, May, I said. It is blabbermouth. It's spelled with B's, not D's. Mr. Scary stood up at his desk. Girls, please, he said. Then he was going to growl at us, probably, but the phone rang from the office and he had to answer it. I crossed my arms at May. B is the same letter you always forget when you say my name. Remember? So May always calls Junie B Junie Jones instead of Junie B Jones, and that always makes her upset. And so maybe you should use B in a sentence. I leaned close to her eardrum. Dear Blabbermouth May, my name is Junie B Jones. How come you can't remember B's, huh, May? Huh? Are you a blockhead or something? She says some crazy things that aren't always so kind. All right, May's face got very puffery. Then, all of a sudden, she grabbed my journal right off my desk and she started to rip out the page. Oh my goodness. So there's Junie B. She's trying to get her journal away from May. And all this is going on during class while their teacher is busy. So this is not a good situation, is it, boys and girls? Then I tried to grab it back from her, but May would not let go of that thing. And so me and her got into a tuggle. I pulled real hard. Then May pulled harder. Then, woof! I pulled and pulled with all my might, and me and my journal went flying back in my seat. I hugged that book safe and sound. But something did not feel right. I looked down. During the tuggle, May's sweater sleeve accidentally got hooked on my thumb, and so Oh no, her sleeve got stretched across the aisle with me. I quick untangled it from my thumb, but that sleeve did not bounce back. Instead, it just stayed on my lap, real longish and droopish. I did a gulp at that thing. Then, very slow, I looked over at May and kaboom! Her whole stack blew off. She exploded out of her seat and she hollered at the top of her lungs, Mr. Scary, Junie Jones wrecked my sweater sleeve! Junie Jones wrecked my sweater sleeve! Mr. Scary hung up the phone. I quick weighted up May's sleeve. So she's like trying to scoop it up. And I tried to give it back to her, but she did not even take it. And so the sweater sleeve just unrolled itself on the floor. My eyeballs popped out. May's eyeballs popped out of her head. Ah! It's all the way to the floor, she yelled. It's ruined, my sweater is ruined. I tapped my fingers, very thinking. Well, the whole sweater isn't ruined, actually. It's just that one sleeve, May, I said, kind of quiet. If you grow one arm to the ground, it will fit like a glove, probably. May opened her mouth to holler again, but Mr. Scary was already hurrying down our row. He did not say a word to us. Instead, he took May and me by our hands, and he rushed us into the hall. May's sweater sleeve dragged on the floor behind her. She picked it up real limp. So limp means not moving at all. It's lifeless. Look at this. Just look at it, Mr. Scary, she grouched. Junie Jones wrecked my sweater. Junie Jones wrecks everything. I did a mad breath. I do not wreck everything, I said. And anyway, this wasn't even my fault. You're the one who started it, May. You're the one who stole my journal. Mr. Scary looked down at me. Stole? He said. The word is stole, Junie B, not stoled. I sucked in my cheeks, 'cause now is not the time for grammar. Fine, she stole my journal, I said. She just grabbed it right off my desk and she tried to rip the page out. May kept on arguing. But I only took her journal because she wrote a bad name about me, she said. I stamped my foot. But May wouldn't even know about that name if she didn't snoop. I said, snooping in someone's journal is an invasion of their piracy. She's using the wrong word again. Mr. Scary did a frown. Privacy, he said. It's an invasion of privacy, Junie B, not piracy. I threw my head back. For the love of Pete, can't you just let it go? I'm trying to make a point here, I said. Oh, that's kind of a huffy way to talk to your teacher, isn't it? Mr. Scary glared his eyes. He said, for me to calm myself down, young lady. I jumped all the way in the air. I am calm. Doesn't sound calm, does it, boys and girls? I hollered back. After that, I got marched speedy quick to the water fountain, and I had to drink some sips of water to settle myself. I drank and settled. Then I wiped off my mouth, and I rocked back and forth on my feet, kind of nervous. Sorry, I said real quiet. Sorry I got mad, Mr. Scary. Sometimes grammar makes my head explode, I said. Mr. Scary smiled a little bit. Then he took me back to May, and he talked to us in a calm voice. I really don't understand your behavior lately, girls, he said. The holidays are the time of year when we try to spread peace and goodwill. But you two are treating each other worse every day. Me and May quick pointed at each other. It's her fault, we shouted together. Oh man, it doesn't seem like they learned their lesson, does it, boys and girls? Mr. Mr. Scary shook his head. I don't care whose fault it is, he said. If you two have another fight today, there will be no holiday sing-along for either one of you. Instead, you'll be parking yourselves in the principal's office for the afternoon. My body did a shiver at those words, because I've parked at principals before. That's why. And there's not a lot of singing that goes on down there. So, what's it going to be, girls? Said my teacher. Do you want to shake hands and make up? Or do you want to spend the afternoon in the office? My eyes glanced over at May. She was standing still as a statue, and her eyes were staring at the floor. I waited and waited for her to shake hands with me, but she did not look up. Finally, Mr. Scary tapped his annoyed foot at us. Well, he said again. I waited some more, but May still did not budge herself. That's how come I did a big loud breath. And I picked up May's long sweater sleeve and I gave it a shake. There, fine. I shaked with her, I said. Shook, said Mr. Scary. Whatever, I said. Then I dropped the sleeve back on the floor and I kicked it over to May with my foot. She did a gasp. Then she picked it up and swatted the dirt off on my pants. Hey, quit it, I yelled. Mr. Scary snapped his fingers at us. May stopped swatting. I was just getting the dust out, she said. Mr. Scary filled his cheeks up with air, then he let it out real slow. He feels pretty frustrated, doesn't he, boys and girls? Because they're not really making up or apologizing. They're both still pretty angry. Then he took us by our hands and we walked back to room 1. Peace and goodwill do not come easy. All right, thank you for listening to the first chapter with me. Later in the week, I will do another video with chapter 2. Bye.